When it was good, it was good. It was the best there was. And we had sea dress right behind us for years, and no one even knew it.
Hey, folks, and welcome back to the Western Outdoor News Podcast. This is episode 39. This week, we have an open discussion with local calico fanatics and local legends, Al the Sports Barber, Ben Seacrest, and SBS Tournament Director Jerry Mayhew. We talk about the state of the calico bass population through the eyes of anglers, and we also discuss our thoughts on the MPA closures in Southern California and how they're affecting the calico bass. If you would like to become part of this discussion, you can join the community meeting held October 18th from 5 to 7 p.m. via Zoom. Learn about the 2022 MPA Decadal Review and share your knowledge and perspectives on the subject. And let's get episode 39 started with the Calico Roundtable. First things first, we kind of want to just roll into this thing talking about the state of the calico bass fishery and what's going on with it. We had some closures quite a few years back and some regulation changes. What's your guys' thoughts on that? We'll kind of just start. Al, go ahead and.
Well, I think it's gone for the better. I mean, when they cut the limit in half from 10 to 5 and made the minimum size 14, I was kind of worried that guys might not want to go fishing anymore if they can't come home with that big bag of fillet. But I think the boats are doing well. The guys are still going out. The boats are full of people. Calico bass fishing is alive and well. The fishery, I think it's helped the fishery. It had to help the fishery when you cut your bag limit in half and go up 2 inches on the size. So I think it's on the way back, and it's never going to be the way it was back in 1900. I'm sure it was unbelievable. Throw any kind of a hook out there, you'd have several 8-pounders all over it. But we're living in an area where there's so much pressure. There are people that live in Southern California. We're packed with pressure.
Yeah, the pressure is definitely there. I've noticed numbers probably going up. A lot of small fish still. Those fish are slow to grow, but I have been noticing quite a few numbers. We get on the big ones on the charters early in the spring and then late in the fall, and then obviously all summer seems to be a bag of shorts for most people. How do you feel about closures and all that happening?
Well, I think Al's correct in saying that, it has gotten better, but I can speak with the guy on the left here, and Al was just learning when it was going down. When it was good, it was good. It was the best there was. And we had sea dress right behind us for years, and no one even knew it. We'd go out and catch 100 fish a day, no problem in the afternoon. End of the 100 fish, you'd have a fish over 5-6 pounds, right? And those were the days where a lot of people would trip, where we would catch really big fish a lot because there was only how many boats, Jerry? 10 boats on the whole coast fishing those things?
Yeah, demographically, it's a really small deal as far as people targeting. Now everybody's on it. Everyone loves to catch and release them.
Yeah.
They do get a tremendous amount of pressure.
Yeah, they're constantly being pressured, not just by the sport boats, but even, the guys in the skiffs. More and more guys are doing it, I've noticed. Not that they're doing it efficiently, but they're getting out there and they're doing it. So there's a lot of pressure on this whole fishery.
I think what happens, too, is that the education of catch and release, and that's happening with the tournaments and stuff, all that's going to do is help us, too.
Yeah.
But, it's like the one thing I'm not sure of, and maybe Jerry has, is a lot of the fish that are taken from certain spots and then released in another spot. I'm wondering how the spots they're doing that are, like, for instance, the islands. I started going to the islands, in the 90s with Barry Breitenberg, and there were so many fish there, but everything was there. And then now they run the tournaments, and the guys hit the islands, and they take the fish from the islands, and they bring them back to the beach, which I have no problem with because I live on the beach.
Yeah.
And I don't go to the islands, but I wonder how that impacts the fishery because there's, I still don't see those fish like I would think I would see them on the beach here, but I'm sure they're around. But
those bigger fish and those tournament fish that are getting weighed, there's definitely such an amount of pressure on them. They do get moved.
Yeah.
Can you imagine you grow up in Catalina or and you get relocated to the ghetto in Long Beach?
Yeah.
Down on the break wall. I used to live in Catalina. Now I live on the break wall.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I do numbers of bass. At the end of my SBS season during the championship, I go over numbers. How many fish over 4 pounds, 5 pounds, 6 pounds, up to 9 pounds. every year it gets less and less. For some reason, I don't know what these big fish are doing, but like Benji says, years and years back, you could go fish frontside of Cat and catch, 10 fish between 6 and 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Those fish, I don't know where they're at.
It could be a cycle too. I can't figure. I remember I started working for AFCO in '86, and Milt Shedd took me with my Gregor, pulled behind the SeaWorld, and we were able to go through and anchor right in front of Wilson's. So I remember like yesterday taking a squidder with a 9-foot rod and Spanish mackerel and going back, and it was before the swim bait craze, and going back there with straight 40 and throwing in there and you'd catch 4 to 8 pound fish. And, I remember guys catching these huge fish, and unfortunately back then we'd eat them. And then what ended up happening was just watching how that whole thing transversed. And I remember fishing with Stoats a lot, and we went in, we were fishing the bay, and I was like, this sucks. I don't want to catch any more of these spotted bay bass. What else is out there? So me and Stoats went out with spotted bay bass stuff out to Big Corona. And this was like 89, 90 or something, and got smoked. And then once we figured it out, we were buying musky rods and ABU 55s and 6500s, and met Rich Holland, and the rest is history. I mean, that was... There was no people around. And that's why when he's talking about big fish, I just remember that. I think it was a 5-year period. I had 5 fish over 10 pounds, right? But remember, no one else there.
Yeah.
Right? There was no one fishing it. So it was a pretty amazing time. But, times change, things are what they are.
It's the most caught fish in Southern California.
Yeah.
But it's also the most released fish in Southern California. I don't know anybody else that goes and targets big white sea bass to get a picture of them
and release them,
and then slide them back in the water.
Oh, they're dead. They can't handle it.
Slide it back in the water.
Yeah.
I mean, calicos,
they're tough.
Release, tournament, release. So, but it's a good eating fish. So why? Well, I think 1, it grows slow, and 2, respect.
And I'll tell you what, the regulation, we're talking about 14 inches from 12 to 14, and half the keep take from 10 to 5 was huge. My charters that I run, my clients in some weeks will catch 600 or 800 fish in a week.
That's awesome.
Lots of small fish. So much small fish.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the MLPA areas, closure areas, I really do believe they've only helped. Being that Calico's are broadcast spawners. They're stacked up in those areas. I have friends at Fun Dive, Brook Street. Some of the MPAs on the island just diving and taking a look at stuff, and there's tons of fish in there. There's no pressure on them.
Those big ones, more resident probably fish.
But the weirdest thing with the resident type of deal is, like, I don't know if you remember this, but I was like sponsored by Al Kalin a million years ago. We ran a thing called the Calico Conservation Club.
Okay.
And what I ended up doing was buying 1,000 tags from Floyd Tags, and I tagged 570 fish. And what I did is, for everybody that would capture one of these fish, I'd give them a free Kalin pack, but they'd have to give me the Floyd tag back and tell me just same as marlin fishing, right? It was the same exact thing. Okay. So from the information that I got, and I have a whole book at home on this thing, everywhere where I tagged those fish is where they were caught. They did not move very far at all. And when I'm saying far, it wasn't like a half mile. They were pretty much on the stuff. But I remember also fishing, seeing these huge aggregate schools of fish outside, and they were moving up and down the beach with white sea bass and yellowtail.
Yeah.
And I would just trip. And Mark Gassage he always knew when that was going on. He was like, hey, Benny, you got to check this out. Those fish moved all over the place. So to me, there was 2 different types of fish. There was migratory fish, then there was the stonefish. And I tended to fish the stonefish all the time, but there are those migratory fish, and I wonder how those things move around.
I think, the presence of red crab, too, in recent years, changed a lot of the feeding habits. I noticed at Catalina and the islands, well, maybe not so much Clemente, but Catalina especially, a lot of the calicos, they're not so structure related like they used to be, and like Benny's saying, they were resident fish, they were home-guard fish, they owned a reef or an area, and they lived there. They ate whatever they wanted to, those 5 to 8 pounders on those reefs.
Yeah.
Octopus, baby Garibaldi, whatever they're eating.
Right.
They get caught and pressured, cotton cat, whatever. They're not easily replaced, but I think those open water fish,
Yeah.
They're moving.
they travel, since that red crab came in, it really changed a lot.
Yeah.
And it came
like
in,
Benny's
boy.
saying, these big schools they actually move around.
And it was like, I haven't seen it recently, and you probably haven't either. I mean, I know a lot. I talked to a lot of guys that fish, but back in the day, Jerry, and I know he experienced with me, we'd find fish and they were milting. So it was like a big pot of just a big orgy going on,
Yeah.
and you're one fish after the other, and you got stuff all over you, and you're just looking at them like, whoa, what's up with that? But the other thing I really started to notice is that those migratory fish were copper, bright gold, and those are the fish that are moving in and out. And a lot of times, think about where we catch them. We sit up on the outsides of the kelp beds and fish the corners and figure out which way the wind's blowing and do all this weird stuff. Those fish gotta move around those kelp beds.
Sure they do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
According to where they're going to feed, where the bait's stacked up and everything else.
and that's the weirdest thing is there's a time where we can be, you're not catching anything for a while, and then all of a sudden you hit the right spot. And what it is when bait starts to really congregate and hit certain edges of certain kelp beds. In San Onofre's one place, you can go down there and catch 100 to 200 fish on waxwings, on what you can throw anything you want. And they're there.
Yeah.
But that only happens very rarely now where it...
Last summer we saw that we had that 100, 150
Oh, yeah,
day,
yeah.
and it looked like calico foamers. Everywhere you look, you see a calico foamer over here, a calico foamer
Right
over
off
here,
the pier.
calico foamer
Yeah.
over
That was
here.
the craziest
Bait-
thing.
Yeah.
Bait moved into the
Were they
kelp.
on open water?
Just open water.
Open
Open water.
Yeah, because that
Close
kelp's
to the
all
kelp.
died off. It's just like cobble
But
or something
It was
over
like
there.
Yeah.
you could see the multiple foamers. I mean, multiple. All
We
around you.
stopped, and I was like, "Dude, is that?" And then you're looking at
Like
it from me,
Bonita?
and you're like, "These are calicos." And after that, we were on it for
But
couple times.
Another thing too, I've been cutting Rick Dosberg's hair forever from the Fury, and he did a tagging program one time years ago, and they tagged a calico off of San Mateo in the morning, and later in the afternoon they caught the same fish off of the power plant.
yeah.
Wow.
That's wild. I never heard of that one, but
Yeah.
that's
So
awesome.
that's like
Dosberg
that
told me
that migratory
here's one where
fish.
Yeah.
He was not sitting on his rock, but he was working his beach. Maybe that's
Yeah.
his zone. That's his zone. And
Well, you could imagine, I'm sure when they're like in those big schools like that, that's what they're doing. They're wolf packed up in 100 fish going up and down the kelp bed, looking for that edge wherever that bait might
we like to
collect.
call it that hornet's nest. You're looking for that hornet's nest.
Yeah.
You flip that wax wing into the kelp, and here comes 8 fish.
They're all spinning over it and stuff.
Following your lure, and of course the 2-pounder's the one that always eats it.
Yeah, the fast one.
the thing about that too that you're sitting, when you say that, it's like, this is what I wondered. Like for a while, there was so much focus on different species, and then all of a sudden, the focus was on calicos,
Yeah.
right? Calico tournaments. Everybody wants to catch calicos, and it's still the limit was 10. At what point, when the limit was 10 and the size limit was smaller, at what point did that really impact it to the point where it is today? That's what I wonder, because people go, well, it's not the same. I remember sitting down by Seal Rock, throwing surface iron and catching one after the other, and it was all you wanted, because you know what the guys were doing on 3/4 bay boats? Something else. They weren't
Yeah.
inside. They were doing something else.
Yeah.
And then what happened when the focus became on calico bass, those guys, I can remember, and you remember too, I used to be really nasty. I'd come up to the boats and start screaming out, "What are you doing in here?"
Yeah.
And you know what? That was all they had to catch. The other stuff, a lot of guys aren't old enough to remember that. I remember like it would probably be, especially the 80s, 88, 89, whatever, offshore. If you caught 1 or 2 marlin, you were stoked. If you had 4 yellowtail, you were a superstar.
Yeah.
And then when the albacore around, it would be a timing. You go bang the albacore a little bit, but there wasn't the white sea bass until Milt Shedd figured out putting that white sea bass hatchery back together and doing the brood stock and reintroducing. Fishing became, like right now we're spoiled. What happens when these bluefin go away?
Yeah.
We are
but-
absolutely spoiled.
It's good.
Yeah.
And technology, boats, everything across the board has enabled so many people
Oh, yeah.
to, advance steps above what it once was. I mean, so
Yeah.
that puts pressure on fish, and enables us to catch more fish. We are spoiled.
Yeah.
We're lucky.
We're very spoiled.
We
Yeah.
have what we do to be able to go do.
You guys got the real end of it though, for sure.
Yeah, I remember what I remember and is right now with electronics, people go, God, you just spend so much time metering fish. It comes from green bass fishing, right?
Yeah.
But when we started, I was using one of those electrical
Flasher.
No, not the flasher. I started with a flasher
graph.
long ago, but the graph with the stylus on it.
Oh, the paper graph.
The paper graphs,
Yeah,
and then
the
we
advanced paper graphs.
yeah. Yeah, we went from the Man Super 60 to the Vexlars, and the Vexlar thing is what we did a lot of stuff on when we first started doing it. And what he just said is now you can go and see in front of the boat, to the side of the boat, over here, and you can see all sorts of stuff that you couldn't before. Imagine how many fish were there
Oh yeah.
that we couldn't see, and imagine the amount that we caught.
Every little stone is now,
This pushes into the freshwater deal. With Panoptics.
the live imaging stuff. Yeah.
Imaging stuff. I mean, it's almost not fair. When I was a kid, my dad told me we'd be at Irvine Lake and I have my little Lorraine's green box.
Yeah.
That was great.
And he'd say to me, Jerry, one day they're going to make fish finders that are just not fair to the fish.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, we're there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of controversy between old school guys and some of the new school guys in the BASS and the
Yeah.
WMLF as far as using, the active target and all that stuff.
You see some of these boats, 3 12-inch screens up on the bow.
Yeah.
And 2 16s in the back.
Yeah.
But utilizing
There's $10,000 worth of.
Yeah, or more.
Or more.
Yeah.
even side imaging.
Yeah.
On a Lawrence HDS9 or whatever, when you're metering down beach, well, you're seeing a stone over here 300 feet away that you never knew was there.
Yeah.
You can cursor over there, mark the thing, and guess what? You're putting pressure on a fish that's probably never been seen before.
Yeah.
Or using an area that's never been located by
I just did that upgrade. I just
Thanks a lot,
finally
Jerry. Now
threw
I gotta
a
get
side
side
imaging thing.
Yeah.
'cause- Yeah.
No, I have it on it, but I'm so lazy I don't do it. Everybody's
Well,
like,
it's, you
dude,
gotta
what's
drive
up?
around.
I tell you what, from Dana down basically to San Clemente Pier, there's so much hard bottom.
Oh, so much.
You'd be lost, don't even mark it, because just fish it all.
Yeah.
You should see his
I call-
his meters like that.
Yeah.
use
I got
the,
like
the
800
American
spots
flag
or
on
something.
Yeah.
I use the American flag, and there's just, as I zoom out, the whole coastline is just American flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Look at your graph and go, your unit, and they go, wait, what are all those marks? Oh, those are my spots. And they go, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, are we going to fish all those today? You're like,
I tell people I could.
I
Make
might take you where I take my friends.
I
but-
can make a whole day of going to the San Clemente Pier and back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Whole day.
Same here. I just call it fishing the cove. Fishing the Capo Bite. There's plenty in there
And
to
I
keep
call
you
the
busy.
big bay there out down to San Mateo, from Dana to San Mateo. I call it the Bay of Plenty.
It is. I mean, when I worked commercial officer with Tommy Pearson, we're setting gear on all this hard bottom stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
He knows it all.
Yeah, we see
It's
Tommy out there all the
amazing
time.
how much stuff there.
But what he's telling you right now that in the day when people couldn't figure it out is I lived and breathed off the lobster traps, and
Yeah.
no one
yeah.
understood it. And they're going, "How do you catch so many fish?" And I just start laughing. I was like, "Dude, follow the lobster boats around. Look for the traps."
I was marking Monday. I was out there marking. Oh,
Yeah. Oh,
I see a trap. I look at my meter and I go, I don't have anything marked here.
Yeah.
Ooh. Pull up, do a slow 360. Up comes a little stone.
Yep.
Doot, doot.
And some of that stuff that doesn't have a lot of relief on it gets covered.
Yeah.
And comes back and gets covered and comes back.
It changes seasonally.
Yeah, that whole hutch area out in front
Yeah.
there. It's kind of like that.
But one of the other things that really strikes a chord. I like having Jerry here because Jerry and I are very similar with where we come from. Like I came from Bass and he came from Bass. But when you talk about people that can find fish, that can catch fish, that can think outside the box, it's a green bass fisherman. They've always been that way. Okay, so. When I was doing it originally, it was like you could figure things out. And I always tell him, I tell my close friends, they're like, how do you get it? And I see it in my head. It's almost like
You map it out.
It's almost like that thing you have it in your head and you're like looking around. But the guys nowadays, some of the guys get too like gnarly on the stuff. And I'm always like, hey, if you really want to check it out, because I've done a couple of the one bass tournaments and you want to lose $500 and see how good it is, go fish against those guys.
Oh, yeah.
I always tell, and I always say that the guys that fish the series that have a freshwater background have an advantage.
Yeah.
They do.
The guys that
100%.
don't.
Yeah.
And we'd see that back in SWBA days too when I was when I first started fishing all that stuff,
Yeah.
I remember Jerry was always there. I mean, his name was top 10 a lot of the times, and a lot of those fresh, like, oh, the guys in the champion bass boat are top 10. Yeah.
Doug and Eugene.
Yeah.
Freshwater guys.
Yep.
Yeah. All those boys were just always, right there at the top.
But the key to that is, how do you get good? You have to pre-fish, right? And then him and I fished this one year, and we finished like, I don't know, we finished like 10th or 13th or whatever it was. And he goes, I really want to get into this. And I'm like, well, you're going to have to find another partner. He goes, what do you mean? I go, you have to pre-fish, because when I worked at AFCO, I got off of work at 3:30 every afternoon. So I was fishing big Corona. There's no wife, no kids. I fished Laguna, big Corona. I fished everywhere every day for years and years until we were stupid enough to let it out to Rich and to do a video and do all this other stuff, and then it was done.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the problem with if you got something good, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Social media doesn't help either.
No, the whole
Everybody
social.
wants to, this thing about welling fish all day, and I'm not a big supporter of this, even though in my tournaments we
Yeah.
fish and
Yeah.
we're culling during the course of our tournament.
That's a tournament.
But people that go out and they catch big calicos and they put them in the tank till
Yeah, that's not
to
it.
get this one,
that you are not benefiting the fishermen at all.
Yeah.
You stress those fish out, those bigger fish.
Yeah.
5-7 pound calicos, 20, 30 years old.
Yeah.
Old fish.
That thing being going for a ride in a tank all day and then
But you know what? I got to give. If there's one sturdy, badass fish, it's the calico bass. I've seen them with bite marks out of them. I've seen them with holes in them.
They are tough.
I mean, I've seen a guy throw one on the deck and decide he's going to release it 10 minutes later, and it swims away.
Sure.
I mean, they're sturdy fish, but they can only take so much. And I'm wondering what's happening right now with the that's going on in Long Beach.
No, it's coming here.
Right,
They
and
closed
what's
our
happening,
house.
that's
Long Beach is safe. It blew down the beach. So from Warner south, it's where it's at.
Yeah.
So Warner and above, we're good. I've
All
got
right.
people.
I got my fingers
sending
crossed
texts
it's not
and
coming
emails.
this way.
Yeah, but the other thing to think about, if that stuff, I don't know that much about it, but if it's deep water stuff, I don't think it's not gonna impact them like it's gonna impact the shallow stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go to Santa Barbara, you fish Santa Barbara.
I was just
You
talking
run your
yesterday.
boat up the beach and
Yeah.
you
About
got
this with my
tar
buddy.
And there's oil.
Yeah.
Really?
I've run through oil slicks.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
natural. It seeps out of the.
You see the bubbles coming up
Yeah.
everywhere? Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, you hook a ride out of Santa Barbara, and that's what it is for a quarter mile, or a half mile. It's all that
Yeah.
stuff.
College up there to the pier up there.
Yeah.
It's everywhere there.
It's scary part about it though is it gives the greenie another stick to shake at us.
Definitely.
And then with those guys doing that, it doesn't make things easier. Like when they took Laguna away, they were supposed to give Laguna back to us.
That's right.
Yeah.
They never did. We never got it back.
When they take things away, I think
There's
it's very
no-
rarely that anything
There's
gets
nothing going to get given back.
Well,
yeah.
PV's gone too, right?
Yeah.
So
There's nothing. They don't give it back. Once they get it, they want more.
Yeah, but at the same time, I do think it benefits the fishery, in a sense. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
My boys
Yeah.
grew up fishing all Laguna, fishing
Right.
hard baits.
Yeah, we've talked about it being one of the best hard bait fisheries
My
around.
boys are like, Dad, how come, it's a bummer we can't fish there anymore? Well, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
It's California.
that place taught us how to fish big swim baits. Like
Yeah.
I'm talking 9-10 inch swim baits,
Yeah.
and people would laugh, and I was like, "There's no laughing." There was no trailer hooks those days.
No.
We would throw those things out, and you
I
use
still don't trailer hook.
a 1.5 ounce head with a long owner shank, and throw that thing out, and then as soon as it hit the water, it'd be winded, and the only thing you do, you'd never put it in free spool, you'd slow your retrieve to get this to sink a little bit, then wind it up. And he's seen a whole bunch of big fish with us caught out of there, and I remember he finally caught a good one, and we had him on the front of the boat, and it was me and Pfeiffer in the back, and I turned to take a picture, and this wave came up, and it was by Brooks. This wave came up and broke over the front of the boat. Took him out.
These guys both go like this.
Oh, no.
I'm like, what? And I turn around, the wave hit me in the pockets. And,
Oh,
and
jeez.
the tackle boxes were floating. And these guys all jumped up to save their sneakers.
Yeah, that's one thing these calico bass have done too. They create a little bit of danger for us.
Oh, yeah.
Freaking calico guys, that want to get in tight to the beach.
Oh,
You're
fishing-
about guys who will flip their
Fishing
boats.
with him, and I'm saying Benny, and he's laughing.
Well, I surfed.
And then
I know when a wave breaks.
And then-
I know what's going on.
And we're comfortable.
Yeah.
We have that surfing experience.
being on one of
You always
those.
have an eye on the horizon.
Always.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
you
Well,
still
it's-
put yourself in.
Main's on, and you're in
Well,
there.
you know what it is? It's like
I-
anything else.
I freak out when someone you pull into a boiler section and the guy turns off the main.
no.
I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. No, we would go.
I got a trolling motor. I'm like, dude.
Keep it all running.
Because during those time frames, I was surfing one day and fishing the next, and then I would understand what swell was doing. And I remember a couple times coming into a spot, and people going, "Why are you watching it for so long?" And the longer I watched, then all of a sudden it should be 2 foot, and then there's a 5 foot wave comes in. I'm like, that's why I'm watching it.
Yeah.
Barry dumped one of his boats. He lost a 17 footer.
Really?
A Baja, yeah.
Actually, I almost flipped his boat, working lobster out on poaches.
You'd think more guys would flip boats. As many guys that do play with the boiler
I
rods.
do know a lot of
Yeah.
guys that won't get near the beach though. That
They don't. Yeah.
I'm not going in there.
Yeah.
You know, they've heard too many nightmares.
I love it. I love that thrill. The thrill of the kill and that stuff is when you're going through and you hook that big one, and there's no drag.
Yeah.
Everything's locked down. You keep the rod tip up, and you're winding, and they're like, "You're not getting any line." I go, "I am." The troll motor's pointing it out. Watch, and you pull him right out with the troll motor, and he's sitting there, and you're like, "There he is."
Another part of the
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole trolling motor thing's definitely changed. The whole game, the
yeah.
spot lock thing.
the anchor thing.
Yeah, jeez. Being able to do all that stuff. The technology is just insane, nowadays. Even with the 8-to-1, 9-to-1 ratios and just the gear is just,
technologies and
yeah.
to be so much better.
Well, you get to see all that stuff too, Jerry. You see it more than I just listen to a lot of stuff. I pretty much keep to myself with this stuff.
Yeah.
I'll go and do my own deal, and then I'll get around these guys, and they'll start telling me stuff. I'm like, wow, I missed that. Where did that thing come from?
yeah.
We're talking about fishing in tight, and I tell you, still to this day, one of my favorite things to do is fish the backside of Clemente on the big motor. No trolling.
Yeah, no trolling motor.
Just bumping in and out of gear, fishing from eel all the way to China.
Yeah.
The whole back middle of
Yeah.
it. And I'll get in so tight, and like Betty's saying, drags button down, big space, some surface iron on some of the edges, but just it's just that
Heavy leader.
visual part of calico bass.
It's,
fishing.
yeah.
Well, the bite, like, guys don't get, like, it's like if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about when you're winding and you feel them and you keep on winding because most people swing when they feel something.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wah, and I'm like, I used to hit his arm all the time. I go, don't set the hook.
That's how he taught me how to not
Just
swing.
wind.
You know, you just wind, and they
start flinching.
literally on the big baits, and you're winding, and they'll go and you go further and further, and then all of a sudden you're there. He's got, and you give it to him. It's like nothing beats that.
I remember the same kind of deal. I would, my buddy Landon, he would always swing for him, and I'm like, I'd come up behind him by his shoulder and just say, just wind.
Yeah, that was the key to it.
Because he'd miss one, and I'd be like, just wind.
Yeah,
I took this bass guy out one day, me and my buddy, and I took this young kid, this bass guy out, and he kept swinging and swinging and swinging. He never landed a fish.
Yeah, yeah.
I had several. My buddy had a bunch. He watched us, and I kept saying, "Don't swing, don't swing." He couldn't break the habit. He was a freshwater guy. Every bite he got, whew, I'm like, "Go, just whine." He couldn't do it.
I took a few FLW guys out last year and just fished the local stuff. And I knew these guys were catch and release, so we pulled into Capo Beach and started fishing in tight. And one of us was throwing a spinner bait, and same thing though. Oh, big old hook set. I'm like, just wind, wind into the fish. And we were fishing like straight fluorocarbon and getting weird and stuff too. And that's always kind of fun.
you know, when you get like. Back in the day, I used to get to take a lot of those guys fishing. Like it was the Hines brothers. I took Greg Hines fishing, and I took Yellis fishing, and we got to take a lot of different people fishing just from meeting them during doing those other tournaments and then bringing them out doing this. And I remember Yellis looking at the spinnerbait, and he's going, "What do you think, Benny?" And I said, "Well, you can give it a try, but they're going to tear that thing apart." And he's like, and it took about 2 fish and it was gone. And he goes, "What are we doing?" I go, "Here's a swim bait. Now here you go."
Yeah.
And then when they start trying to lip those calicos,
They're not ready for it.
They don't know. They don't realize that their bass, green bass, don't have real teeth, but calicos do.
Yeah. Oh man, one thing I've always, I've been doing charters out of Dana for the last 6 years, and it was just calico stuff and a lot of catch and release, and we'd keep them. But I always had a rule. It was 14 to 18 we kept.
Yeah.
Anything over that, I'd try to get my customers to release.
Yeah.
14 to 18 seems to be a good
2 to 3 pounders are eaters.
Yeah, exactly.
If they need something to eat.
Yeah, exactly. If we're not like,
delicious.
and they're tasty.
They're very
exactly.
good.
They're good eating.
On those
Yeah.
Cedros trips, I used to tell the guys, because a lot of guys were like, "Oh, we can't kill them." I'm like, guys, these are Mexican calicos.
It's okay.
And it's Cedros. There's no pollution and there's no pressure. We should be having calico bass for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
It's good enough. And we would have one big calico feed.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
One time-
It's good eating.
A taco night with calicos is not a bad night.
No, that's excellent.
Brian Sims told one of the captains to go bring some calicos back. He says don't bring any big ones.
Yeah.
Don't bring any big ones. Cal, the captain, second take, and he says, don't bring any big ones. Don't kill any big ones, Cal, but bring them back for lunch. So he brings them back, and the boat's full of 5s and 6s and 7s. And Brian Sims says, "Damn it, Cal, I told you not to take any big ones." And Cal says, "These are the smallest ones I could catch."
That's a pretty good trip.
Yeah, those old days on those trips would have been just amazing. I've yet to do one of those style trips where you're, multi-day calico fishing.
It's
Captain
stupid.
Joe and Cappy in the galley.
Cappy.
Those guys are legendary.
And then you throw some yellowtail fishing in with the thing too,
Yeah.
So you throw some yellow in with the calicos, and we made a point to make it. No one put a bait on for a week.
Yeah.
It was all lures.
Yeah.
It was all lures.
You know what's weird though is prior to that, when we used to go down there to do other trips like Guadalupe or whatever else, we'd always stop at a lot of those islands coming home, and the fishing was nuts, and it was all on bait. And the other thing that we used is
even from the stern big boat.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm talking. We used salty shrimp, and we used Ranowski shads, and we used everything else. There was only one lure there, and it was what was his name? Is Marv Benelin made the original swim bait. What is it? You just gave me some of them. Nah.
The Kalen?
No, it was Marv Benelin made the original swim bait.
Or something?
Well, yeah, it was that. But we use scampies, we use everything else. But if you wanted a really big fish, you'd use the Spanish mackerel, and we'd throw those Spanish mackerel back there, and it was nuts.
Yeah.
But
Sac Reef was a heck of a place too, boy. We've seen some things happen at Sac Reef. One morning there, coming home from the 7-day trip, I was sicker. The flu went through the whole boat. I woke up that morning sicker than a dog, but I knew we were at Sac Reef. And I got in a skiff with Barry, and I go to make the cast. I look back at him. He just give me the lane. Take that lane right there. We didn't wham, but we eyeballed him, and he gave me three over 8 on the surface iron. That was some serious.
The surface iron for calico fishing is...
oh, it's awesome.
Oh my
Worm
gosh.
King's the name of those baits.
Worm King.
Worm
I
Kings.
was about to say the dinosaur.
Yeah, that was.
Dinosaur.
And here's a great story.
It's a freshwater 12-inch, right?
Yeah,
they made.
at
I still have
Casitas, I got some of those dinosaurs. I used to fish crawdads, and I'd go talk to Mason, and Mason gave me one of those things. And the first swim bait fish I ever caught in my life was in 79 or 80, and it was on a Worm King.
Wow.
And it was a largemouth, right? And then when I saw those things come back in, I was thinking, I've done that one before. Because Danny Cadota's cousin's the one that was like, you got to go talk to Jim Mason. Jim Mason has these baits. And that's what they were. They're Mason-colored Worm Kings. And then Gary Brown at Fish Trap made Masons, too. God, that was a long time ago.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We go fish big Corona and little Corona, and the only thing that would work would be the 9-inch dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it had to be no sun in the sky. It was either gray light in the morning.
It was dark.
Or evening gray light.
When he's talking about hairball, I used to take him at night and pull him into places, and he goes, "How do you know?" And I go, "I can see him on the horizon." So I turn around and look at all the horizon, and he goes, "What are we doing?" I go, "We're running over this one." Huh? All right, get over one, and then that's good stuff.
Yeah, we were fishing the other day at Capo at night, and it was
At night?
Yeah, at night. We've been fishing it at night as much as that's when I can get out.
Yeah.
So we've been fishing it and doing pretty good. It's been fun. This is we're right there at the cusp of the big fish season, I think. It's starting to cool down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a storm coming Friday. First kind of legit storm out of Alaska.
Yeah.
So
Northern
should
stuff
be
coming
starting
down.
to
You know,
do something.
San Diego, though, has been on fire. And then the one thing you're talking about baits, I grew up on Twin Tails, then Ranowskis, then, Worm Kings, then swim baits. And I fished swim baits for a million years. But what I see now is, I mean, there's a diversity of baits that work. Like you got bass tricks that work. You got, think of the hubs. The hubs thing, when that thing hit, it was like...
Those things catch fish.
I used to I'm like, no way. Those things, no way, no way, no way. And how long did I say no way until someone like, try them?
Yeah.
So when I was in Cedros in September, our pongero, Jose, he'd get in the back of his ponga and reach in there. The calicos were boiling on the red crab. There was red crab in September.
Yeah.
Right, Cedros. And he goes, oh, no, this right here. And he had a torn up hookup bait.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Red one.
Any of these? I go, no.
Red one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Red one. Just
I remember the first weedless bait I fished was a bass tricks.
Yeah.
Because we were fishing them in the freshwater, and I don't know how we never thought to like bring it into the calico zone. We were fishing PV. Me and Bombard were fishing up there, and we had some killer days on that. And then, the MCs came out, and then Pearls came out, and more of those,
Cora made
calico
things,
built.
Yeah, Cora made things that lasted.
Yeah.
When you start going, hey Jerry, that was just $1 for that bait, and this is $1 for this bait, and all of a sudden you look in the bottom of the boat, I'm like, there's $30 in the bottom of the boat over here. It's like,
yeah, those bass tricks were not cheap. It was like a 3-pack for $10.
Well,
sometimes.
when you started fishing, he was talking about fishing the slugs. Jerry, for Corey slugs. I have slugs that I still have that have caught 100 fish because they're hard plastic, and you got the wire, you got the spring in there and stuff. Everything's rigged right.
We had a great run this summer with the Boom Boom. The owner new flashy Boom Boom rig with the little spinner underneath.
Oh yeah.
No, that's not called the Boom Boom. The Boom Boom is that's the bait we're using.
It's the flashy.
It's the flashy.
It's the owner flashy hook system.
Yeah.
With a screw in the front.
Yep.
Yeah, we were using IMA Boom Booms. I got on his boat one morning, and I go with him every once in a while, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I'm going to fish this. So I got these weedless, and we start fishing around. All of a sudden, I start catching fish. You got another one of those? And then about 2 weeks later, I get on his boat, and there's a whole bag of Boom Booms on his boat.
But we had when the wax wing's biting, not much can get me off the wax wing.
Yeah.
But this summer, the Boom Boom system, owner system, got me off the wing a couple times. That thing, you throw it. I mean, you look for the biggest, thickest piece of kelp and just throw past it and just crank it right over the top of that kelp. So much fun.
Yeah.
No, that's always been a fun thing there. But topwater's like when you're like you're doing play by play. Here comes.
Anything.
Oh man. That's what it's all about.
They zombie in on that.
There's nothing better, yeah.
All of a sudden, you see their eyes just go, dong, and they're coming to get it no matter what.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You watch them mop your junk like that.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing better.
Gosh, I didn't do any calico bass fishing this summer. I was in the office.
It was mostly clients for me, but
I was bummed. It was the other night was the first night I'd fished bass in a long time, and I felt so out of place. I'm like, man, I haven't been out in months.
I went to Cedros. That's all I did. I went to Cedros, and then I don't think I've fished a couple times maybe with him, but as soon as that tuna thing came in,
yeah, I know.
We were out doing that stuff, and that's how much. You're the bass guy. Yeah, I'm the bass guy in the back of this boat rigging your flying fish so you can catch this thing on the balloons. All I know is about bass, right?
Yeah, the sky bobber.
I fish calicos almost 100 days a year locally.
Yeah.
It's 12-foot rock, this place, the fog spot, Christmas tree. We just have our spots we hit time after time after time. And then on the way back in, I'll hit the 12-foot rock on the way back in from lunch. On the way back out, I hit the 12-foot rock again, and then not catch anything 3 times. But on the way in, now that they got the conditions, sunny, windy, surface iron, boom.
Yeah, that 12-foot rock's got some.
I had to hit it 4 times, but
or the other 12-foot rock just a little further down the beach. That one's fun too.
Which one is that?
Just way down there. It's a little further down the beach. The other 12-foot rock.
The other 12-foot rock is.
I fished that one the other night.
Off of Las Pulgas.
Yeah.
And Benny and I were down there a couple of years ago, and we pulled up on that thing, and we had a 9-foot great white. So circle the boat at about 2 miles an hour twice.
Yeah, I got a video of that and put it up, and everybody was like trying to put it on the news and stuff. I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
That was impressive. He was just checking us out.
Yeah, that whole zone down there can be kind of fishy too. I mean, there's a lot more hard bottom than people think. It doesn't get pressure down there. Yeah,
I was fishing solo one time, and I'm on the bow, and I'm winding this little calico on the surface, skipping him in, and just as I lift him off the water, boom! Something tried to get him.
Oh, was it a black?
No, and I looked down to the left. There's about a 7-foot great white.
Oh, jeez.
So great whites eat calicos.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've had the blacks eat the calicos under the boat. Right in
That's
my
a lot
face,
of
where they
fun losing
splash
all
you
your
pretty
stuff.
much. Oh gosh, like it's on an A rig too, and you're just like you're whining this fish, and you think eat everything, the A rig and everything, and it's like, oh man, whoops.
That's the thing about the A rig. When you lose that, you lost some hardware.
Yeah, definitely. Well, guys, this is the Calico Roundtable, Western Outdoor News Podcast. I think we got some good talking in.
Yeah, we did.
Yep.
Yeah, it's always fun.
A couple of back in the days and way back when.
Yeah, it's fun shooting it with the old guys here.
And just same thing, putting it out there, man. Release them. Don't.
Yeah. Slow to grow, so let them go.
Yeah, totally.
And
It's
fish Jerry's tournaments and listen to Jerry. He'll teach you all about that stuff, how to keep them going.
You'll learn a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Rookie family vision, master's vision, fish side by side, yet you fish.
Fishing the tournament scene, it what it did for me was expanded just my range. Because, I mean, when we were fishing that first SWBA series, we were, Santa Barbara down to San Diego. And so it's just like you're fishing areas you don't fish.
Yeah.
Getting
out of your comfort zone.
Getting out of your comfort zone. And you learn so much because you're like, oh, whoa, they do this here. I bet you they do that back home.
And leave your egos at home.
Yeah.
Talk with your rod, not with your mouth.
And go
then
fishing.
you're going to be all fun. Have fun. Go fishing.
The fun thing about the Calico Bass tournaments is after everybody meets in the parking lot and has a big barbecue and everybody sits around and has a beer and talks about it. I heard the freshwater tournaments. That's not
it's
how
pretty
it rolls.
tight-lipped.
That's not how it rolls.
Tight lip.
Cut the baits off. Yeah.
They're glaring. Everybody's glaring.
Go home.
You still get some of those guys in saltwater tournaments, but generally, like you say, Al, at the barbecues, everybody's sitting at the tables.
We're friendly.
Oh, we were whacking them on this. Yeah, we got them on that. Oh, I saw you in that zone. Yeah.
Were you guys throwing that? I thought you were.
Yeah.
And people put two and two together, and then they got the other guys just listening, and you learn a lot.
Those are the guys.
You learn a lot.
Alrighty, boys. Well, thank you very much, and man, we'll have to do something like this again sometime soon.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Always good to talk.
And that's going to conclude the Calico Roundtable, episode 39 of the Western Outdoor News Podcast. Again, if you'd like to join in the conversation, the community meeting is held October 18th from 5 to 7 via Zoom, where you'll learn about the 2022 MPA Decadal Management Review and share your perspectives on priorities, definitions of success, and the role of the recreational fishing community in state management of the MPA network. Hit the link in the description for details and to RSVP.